Well, I'm starting a Law of Time explanation series about a matter I think you all are going to find very cool, and something that's been on my mind that I think the rest of the world can be brought in on. I believe the Law of Time is a organization that teaches a different calendar model than the one that we are presently engaged in with a 12-month year. It actually works on a 13-month year as a way of attuning to the natural moon cycles. The moon cycle is 28 days. 28 times 13 is 364. That's only a day shy of a normal year, and with a day out of time, to be found in the middle of July basically, we have a complete calendar system. And within this calendar system, there are some very incredible magical and spiritual discoveries that I think are completely relevant for the entire world to start to tap into. This calendar is basically a synchrometer, a measuring device for synchronicity. Now, my relationship with synchronicity is profound because the first time I ever was introduced to the term synchronicity, it was a psychology class. And in this psychology class, I was learning about Carl Jung. It was an introduction class. And I was pretty bored at the time. I was a freshman in college. And I was doodling on my notebook. And I was drawing a cross. And at that exact moment, I looked up on the PowerPoint slide my teacher was presenting. And there was a lecture from Carl Jung about mandalas and how they represent symbols of the self. Well, that got my mind working. And I started to think. That night, I was told to go research one of the people I'd been learning about in class that day, and of course I chose Jung. And I wrote a reflection paper on Carl Jung, and I learned he was the one who coined this term, synchronicity. And the idea of synchronicity is that there are two events that happen on the external reality, but inside they have a similar connecting causational principle. Now, the laws of synchronicity are basically ones of time. It was a timed-based event where I learned about Carl Jung while doing a synchronistic experience, and later I would discover the term synchronicity synchronistically. So it was like a triple finding on synchronicity. Now, I bring up Carl Jung in particular about this discussion because I thought this would be a cool way of bringing you all in on what's known as the wave spell. Every single day of this 364-year calendar, 364-day calendar, with an extra day included, actually has a specific wave spell. It's a Mayan archetype. The idea of the Mayan, this is a system that was inspired by a guy who claimed to be a reincarnate of a Mayan person and was given authority by Mayan tribes to say that you are a wisdom person of the Mayan tradition. A particular archetype that works within the Tzolk'in system. And yeah, 2012 came and went, and the world's still here. Well, people, the Mayan calendar didn't say the world was going to end. It really just said the world was going to change. I mean, like, class ends and another one begins is basically that thought. Everyone knows an ending is a beginning. Well, basically the idea is that we're beginning a new cycle, and anyone who's alive today can know that, yeah, we certainly are in a different sort of time period than we were just a little bit ago. You know, internet and me talking on my phone and whatever else. So, back to Carl Jung. Carl Jung, you can find out, this is his birthday when you look it up. I'll post it in the dates because I don't have it on memorized, the exact birthday. But I do have memorized his Mayan archetype. Now, there are 260 Mayan archetypes to choose from, and that's because that you get based upon your birthday. Every single day is another progression in this 260-day cycle. And it's basically, 260 comes from 13 times 20, which is basically a rotation cycle that happens where 13 connects with 20, has to do with the harmonic ratios of 7 and 13 and 20. 7, okay, so 13 is a number of perfection, completion. Jesus is the 13th disciple. 13 is just like the wild card number, therefore it's like pretty much perfect because it can be whatever. It's also associated with death. The 20 is your totality. You got 10 fingers and 10 toes, put them together, you got 20. So the idea is that like this is all your digits combined, and that's the number of the totality. So 13 times 20, you get 260. Between the two, you have the number of 7. So that's the idea of like 7 being like the resonant number. We'll talk about that later. And so I'm getting back to Carl Jung here, and I wanted to say he is archetype 234. Now, that makes him the wizard. And in the law of time, the wizard archetype is the 14th archetype, and that is the archetype of the timeless one. Now, Carl Jung invented the term synchronicity. He was the first person to really open up our minds to synchronicity. And that's something almost everyone knows about now. It was just about a century ago this idea first started to really make some headway with Carl Jung. Now, Carl Jung is a wizard, but he's not just any wizard, guys. Carl Jung is the 13th wizard. He is the cosmic wizard. Now, the tones, there are 13 tones that go through. I can name them all, but I'm not gonna... The Mayan, they had these tones. The 13th tone is the cosmic one. And the cosmic one is about transcendence, endurance, and presence. Carl Jung was literally, therefore, the most, like, along the charts, highest evolved wizard that could possibly be. And every single person who is on the law of time gets a personal wave spell. Maybe I'll tell you mine in a later show. But Carl Jung's was, I endure in order to enchant. Transcending receptivity, I seal the output of timelessness with the cosmic tone of presence. Now, that tone, that wave spell, relates some very important qualities about Carl Jung. I can identify them for you. You can find plenty of them yourself. But if you're familiar with Carl Jung's works, for instance, he was a great psychoanalyst, and he talked about the methods of psychoanalysis, and he said, you guys ready for this, what the true method of healing is just enchantment. Carl Jung would be with patients who were schizophrenic, out of their mind, schizoid, and he would be with them and just be with a presence with them, like his wave spell says, and he would do simple little things, and he would say enchantment is the key to healing these people. He knew that if people were in a place where they would find an enchantment, they would be drawn into themselves, into the natural healing abilities that already exist within themselves. And he'd do little things. He'd start making a whistle noise, or he would open a door and a special thing would happen, and people would be there and they would be enchanted. They'd be pulled into his timeless, inquisitive look of synchronicity, that this is all happening together. And they would be changed, and he would do that. This was Carl Jung doing this as the master wizard. Transcending receptivity, the idea is that he brings receptivity to you. The fact that he transcends receptivity, you got to know about his real life to understand that. As a person, he had many experiences that pretty much broke out of the bounds of what you can consider normal receptivity. He was rushed by the unconscious to go beyond what anyone could possibly deal with. He oftentimes has these reports of dreams he's had where he was with like wild beasts that would be like bringing him like to the very depths of the archaic experience, and that's where Carl Jung really liked to go with his psychological analysis. It was all the way to the archaic man, and that's where we find the true meaning of his timeless understanding, which is in this idea that he had timeless presence that was about getting to the very roots, the parts of us that are so deep down in. He often talked about the way that the self was organized as a house, and he was doing subterranean basement work for all of us to bring up these concepts. Now, I just am doing a little bit of a report here on the law of time, Carl Jung as the timeless wizard, and a little bit of an introduction. It's like 5 synchronicities in one, So we're really talking about like stacking the power of that. And that's the kind of tool that you get with the law of time. I'm going to do a couple of these series on a couple different people where I just talk about the different people and the archetypes that they have. And I just wanted to start with probably one of the most intriguing people of all, Carl Jung, the white cosmic wizard. And if you take a look at Carl Jung in his older ages, dude, he looks like a wizard. And I almost think almost all the wizards I know have a certain hair thing that goes on where their hair gets really wild. And even a little bit wiry is pretty common I see in the wizards. And it's all of them. It's like all the wizards I've met are like that. And Carl Jung, he is like the total wizard. So thought everyone can have that now. He's a timeless presence, so even when I talk about him now, I think I can feel this unconscious timelessness, because there is an idea of being outside of time, hence why there's a day at the end of the year for us to be out of time, because time does all sorts of different stuff, and only one who is really sensitive to time, anyone who pays attention to time, can get that there are moments in time that aren't even like what we consider normal time, dreams that last for lifetimes, things like that. So Carl Jung, great material from him. You read his material, think about him being the white cosmic wizard, and maybe you're curious about what your archetype is. I will provide some links in this YouTube section, and yeah, I think we should continue this discussion. All right. Take care, everybody, and have a good one.